This week on Capitol Report, 'twas the show before Christmas, and despite all the yelling...
You think I'm a little hot about this issue? I am very hot about this issue.
I don't answer to you, buddy. I answer to the people.
We remain in the red, the deficit still swelling.
Clark, it's the gift that keeps on giving the whole year.
A guy named Oz joins the governor's race.
I'm Ozzy Osbourne, and I'm the Prince of Darkness.
Not him.
I am the great and powerful Wizard of Oz.
Or him, but an independent offering to shake up the race.
We're trying to reach out and say our focus is on the residents of Connecticut.
We talked to a kid who's dreaming big.
Welcome to Raving Ryan. I'm your host, Ryan Anastasio.
And if I'm not careful, he'll steal my gig. So as we celebrate Christmas...
It's me, buddy!
Let's all take a bow. As I say each Sunday morning, Capitol Report starts now. I am Tom Dutchick, and we are so glad you are spending part of your Christmas Eve with us as we think about who's naughty and who's nice in the world of Connecticut politics alongside Jennifer Snyder. We know where that goes.
Very nice.
Naughty,
Merry Christmas. Merry
Christmas. Joey Latina.
You don't know what to make of this.
Join the panel, Liz Karanowitz, who can go both ways, naughty and nice.
Yeah,
right?
well, if you ask my kids, I'm getting coal. So.
Guys, the race for 2018 continues to get more interesting. Last week, the crowded field of Republicans and Democrats added an independent candidate to the mix. Remember what happened last time we had an independent governor?
Axe the tax! Axe the tax!
50,000 people protested at the state capitol in 1991 when independent Governor Lowell Weicker, my old pal, delivered a state income tax to the people of Connecticut. And now Oz Griebel, a former Republican and outgoing leader of the MetroHartford Alliance, is running as an independent. Griebel wants to put party politics aside and speak directly to the voters.
Our goal is to bring people together to understand what the issues are better, to listen to their ideas, to put our ideas forward about how we make Connecticut a much more competitive state for jobs that will pay at a higher median wage, that will in turn generate the tax revenue that's necessary to support programs that are so critical, whether that's investment in transportation, investment in higher education, whether it's making sure that social service organizations have the wherewithal to provide the services that they need.
Griebel's running mate is former Democrat Monty Frank. Frank's an attorney from Newtown, a staunch advocate for gun control. So why is he getting involved?
The people that I've talked to already are exhausted by the process that has occurred in this state, and they're looking for answers. They're not looking for the constant bickering. They're looking for bipartisan solutions.
All right, guys, so does an independent candidate whose name is not Weicker or Lieberman have a chance to win in Connecticut?
It's hard. It's really hard. I've known Oz for a long time. He's a good guy. He's got some good ideas. Nice guy. Smart guy. But running as an independent when you don't have the name recognition of a Lowell Weicker or Joe Lieberman is a very hard thing to do.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think it's difficult. You know, there's no infrastructure you can rely on. I mean, when you look at, you know, Joe Lieberman, for example, or even Mike Bloomberg, these were folks who were elected as partisans in their respective offices and then switched parties to, in Lieberman's case, his own party, and in Bloomberg's case, an independent. So.
But Jody, a Sacred Heart University professor, our friend Gary Rose, he says, quote, I think the climate is right now in Connecticut in such that a really attractive independent candidate who has solutions to our state's economic woes and our finances, I think could actually pull a lot of votes.
So this is democracy in action, right? Everybody has the opportunity to speak their piece, to try to talk to voters, to try to tell them what their solutions might be. So God bless him. He's going to have to get a lot of signatures. He's going to have to get that structure in place. And you know what? It's anyone's game.
So Jen, our friend Jonathan Pelto calls it a Herculean task, and unfortunately, the law makes it unnecessarily difficult and places numerous barriers to an independent candidate. He needs 7,500 signatures by November, when is it? By August to qualify.
For primary.
It's tough, right?
Yeah, and like Roy said, I completely agree that other candidates who've had success doing this have had name recognition because they've held office before, and so it's a real steep climb. But I mean, if you wanted to kind of look on the positive side, that maybe there are you know, he could think that there are more independents than Democrats or Republicans in this state, so there could be an avenue, but without the name recognition or infrastructure, it definitely is a challenge.
Is there voter backlash?
Well, one point to think about, too, is, you know, I think we want to make sure to line these things up. So he's not running as an independent, he's running as an unaffiliated. So there is an independent party in Connecticut that will...
Which is very dysfunctional.
Which is, right, sure,
yeah.
but they will most likely nominate their own candidate. So what that means for a candidate who doesn't have a party is he's going to fall farther down on the ballot, probably behind Working Families and Green Party, and then it would be, you know, somebody who's running as an unaffiliated. So it's a little bit different than running.
So to get a little wonky, who would they take votes away from, Republicans or Democrats?
Hang on, I just want to go back to a question, a point that you raised a few minutes ago from your friend Jonathan Pelto, who couldn't manage to get on the ballot, but Joe Visconti did.
Yes.
The signature thing
is not that hard. That barrier is not difficult.
No.
It's actually a financial barrier.
It was for Pelto.
Yes. A lot of things are barriers. A lot of things are barriers for Pelto.
The financial barriers, I think, is a difficult one. You have to go out and raise money, and you have to run a campaign just like you would if you were, you know, running for anything else. And so, you know, he's going to have to go out and raise money the old-fashioned way because the CEP system doesn't support candidates that are not in the two-party system.
And back to your question, I think that maybe this is a strategic thing. Maybe he wants to draw votes away from a certain group of folks that are running.
And so who would that be? Who do you figure?
I mean, it could go either way.
Well,
I mean, you could,
I agree, yeah.
Depending on what he's standing for, he could be that third-party candidate that just wants to kind of lob attacks on X candidate, Y candidate.
Or maybe he keeps them honest, you know? I mean, there's a lot of folks who are going to be sort of putting their partisan spin on things, and they're going to go to the left in the Democrat primary, and they could go to the right in the Republican primary, and Oz could be the guy in the middle sort of saying, well, that's not true, and that's not true, and that's not right. So it'll be interesting to see how the dynamics play out. I will be interested to see how he interacts on the campaign trail with Mayor Bronin, because they've been, you know, sort of partners in crime.
Well, that's a perfect segue, guys. So on the Democratic
nice
side,
setup.
This week, Middletown Mayor and gubernatorial candidate Dan Drew went on the Jimmy Dore show and took some shots at Hartford Mayor's Luke Bronin, labeling him a corporate Democrat. Watch this.
But somebody just announced today, who was part of the governor's current administration, and actually, as mayor, has worked to eliminate collective bargaining and binding arbitration in Connecticut.
And that's a Democrat?
Yes. Just announced today.
How does a person like that call themselves a Democrat?
I don't know.
Well, Roy wants at this one. Jen's kind of chomping us to get her.
Tag in and out.
The thought of collective bargaining reform has the Democrats excited.
First of all, what he said is not true. Second of all, if you're going to take a shot at somebody, at least have the stones to use the person's name. And then third, you know, for somebody whose own campaign can't get out of his own way and who's under investigation already, I would think that he would be focused on trying to get his own house in order.
We should just sit back and let them.
I know, I'm kind of enjoying this. Go for it.
I will say that I do think that he made a strategically good decision, kind of trying to take that tack. You see that emerging populism has really been what's been popular. You see it in the strength of Bernie Sanders, and even to Trump had that message, even though it was a complete lie, that people are looking for someone to kind of be talking about the populist message.
Yeah.
So having that strategy, I think, is kind of wise for him to kind of go out on the offense and paint somebody else as a corporate Democrat, and that he's really the person who's going to be working for the working people.
A corporate Democrat like Hillary Clinton won your primary, so.
And that didn't work out so well.
So do the Democrats run to the left and the Republicans run to the right to win primaries, and then they figure out they got to come together in the center, and then Oz Griebel comes in, right?
My feeling on this is that you got to be who you are. So if you're Dan Drew and you're progressive, and you think that those policies and principles are going to take the state in a better direction, you're going to be to the left. And if you're, you know, a hard right conservative Republican, somebody like a Peter Lumage, then, you know, then you got to be who you are. And that's, I think, the one thing I would caution all these candidates is just to be authentic to who you are, because if you play somebody you're not, you're probably not going to do too well.
All right, guys. Up next on Cap Report, it will be a rough start to the new year for state lawmakers. Boy, oh boy, we'll discuss it with Chief Political Correspondent Mark Davis. Keep it right here.